Hi, Ida. Instead of emailing back and forth, I thought this might be useful to help you get some perspective on what I'm seeing and what you apparently are not seeing. So I'm going to walk you through how I read this and where the problems are. I still want to meet with you on Friday. I really do. I think it'll work well. I mean, if you could just squeeze out a half an hour, like I said, I'm happy to drive to Brunswick or wherever so we can actually sit down and look at this together. But for now, this will work. Okay, so your rationale, when I read it originally, I looked and I saw that you had an extra standard. And I thought, well, she must be going to revise her UBD and add this standard because it's a decent standard and it makes sense that she would include that. So I assumed it was going to be in your UBD, but I assumed wrong, and I shouldn't have assumed. I probably should have noted that this isn't part of your UBD. Nonetheless, it's not. So, and then I realize you already have a lesson plan for this in the scope and sequence, so you don't need to put this in here. You already have it there. And we'll talk about this particular lesson when we get there because it doesn't fit, but we'll talk about it when I get there. So this is what I would really want to, and I recognize that you were struggling with this early on, and I thought that our conversations back and forth, you were getting it, and it appeared to me that you were getting it through your lessons, but apparently you were not. So I take some responsibility for that. So the UBD template is your roadmap for constructing a unit. We didn't just do it for fun and to have fill in all these boxes. We did it because now we have a roadmap. It's like we're going on a trip to Florida. We need to have it mapped out. How are we going to get there? We don't just randomly get on different roads and go here and there. I mean, we might do that if we were sightseeing, but we're not. We're getting to where we have a destination in mind. And the destination is mastery of standards, okay? So we start with the UBD stages so that we can lay out our roadmap. So you did a good job on this. It makes perfect sense. You did choose an anchor standard instead of a regular standard, and that's okay. An anchor standard is fine. It's because of the nature of your plan of helping students work with one another, having conversations, being express their ideas and so forth. That's fine. You could choose that. Okay. But it's the only one you provide. Therefore, it's the only one that you can create lessons and assessments for. You cannot add more standards to lessons, and you can't just add lessons to something you don't already have in your learning plan. So this is fine. I mean, it works well. It's great for the standard that you have. Okay. Um, I'm pretty sure that I noted in feedback before, though, that the enduring understandings need to be broad statements. The tag students will understand is already here. You don't need to put it again, and you shouldn't put it again. So I just rewrote these. People in many areas of their lives create community. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't quite get what you mean by that, but maybe you could reword that so it makes more sense, I think. I guess what maybe you want to say is that I don't know what you want to say. So I think that needs some tweaking. There are a variety of learning possibilities from a variety of perspectives. And I crossed this one off because that's not an enduring understanding. Your essential questions are great. How can I better understand the people around me? What's the best way to practice acceptance of perspectives that I do not share? These all fit into your interview, okay? And what are similar differences about our lives as peers, okay? But these are the essential questions and enduring understandings that you created that get carried throughout all your lessons. You can't add new EQs and EUs in your lesson plans. These are the ones that you have laid out as the big broad framework for your unit. So they are the ones that will inform your lesson plans, okay? So here are your acquisitions, okay? And these are okay. You've said that what they're going to be able to do and say. These are fine, okay? But you can't add more student learning outcomes in lessons. These are the only ones you have in your UBD. They're the only ones that can be in your unit of study. You can't add more. Okay, so we look, excuse me. So we look at the evidence, and this makes all perfect sense. And then we get down here. The primary evidence of assessment is a poem. The poem is the assessment and finished product of all the work they have done. Then that has to be assessed according to the standard you provided, which is the SL1, that anchor standard. And if this is the final product of all they've done, you have 3 more lesson plans after they write this poem that don't have anything to do with the interview with the poem. So they don't belong in here, frankly. So we go down here, and again, there is nothing in your learning plan about journals, poems and songs, or Yellowstone, okay? I'm reading your learning events here. and all you're having for learning events is an interview and a poem. So if you want to extend this learning plan and the whole UBD to journal writing and poetry and songs, then you're going to have to redesign this whole UBD to reflect standards for those EUs and EQs for those projects. Okay, they can't just be tacked on; they have to be part of the grand plan, and they're not. This is all fine, but you're talking all about the poems and the interviews. There's nothing else in here about any journals, any poetry and songs, or nothing about Yellowstone for sure. So when we get down here to lesson 1, you tell me it's for 2 to 3 classes. So that's really lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3. Okay, so 3 lessons where students will be doing interviews and writing a poem. Okay, they probably should be fleshed out as 3 individual lessons. Okay. This all matches, everything here matches your original plan. You have the right standard, you have the transfer goals, you have the enduring understandings, the essential questions, these all match. But this one lesson plan that's supposed to encompass 3 days is your entire learning plan for this unit of study. It's what you had outlined in your UBD. This is it. Okay, this is your unit of study. It's very short, but it's your unit of study. Okay. Okay, and so I'm going to skip to, again, the 2-day lesson, actually 2 to 3, because you said 3, we put in there, encompasses your whole UBD. Anything now you add is not, it doesn't belong here. It doesn't even fit because you have not planned for that in your backward design program. Okay, so I'm going to say here again, the lesson, the standards, the EQs, the EUs, the SOLs are not part of your original plan. You've created whole new standards, whole new enduring understandings, whole new essential questions, whole new SLOs that don't fit into your unit of study. For this lesson, for the next one, and the next one. Okay? And I'm sorry, I probably should go and look, but now I've lost my track. I'm sorry, I'm giving you a headache. All right, so this one, lesson 3, this is the Yellowstone one. Isn't this part of your EDU 380 work? And so why is it in your 390 work? It shouldn't be. And when you created this as a tiered lesson, I looked at it as, I said, well, she wants to use this as, she's using this in 380, so she wants to create the tiered lesson here. That's fine. At least she knows how to do it. I was assuming you would create another tiered lesson for your poem and your interview, but again, I assumed wrong and I shouldn't have assumed. So while it's a good tiered lesson, it doesn't fit into your unit of study. You haven't planned for it. Okay, doesn't mean you couldn't. I mean, your unit of study could be getting to know one another. No, I don't actually. I really don't see how it fits into that getting to know one another and interviewing, and writing a poem about what you learned. It's something totally different. It's critical thinking. You're asking students to really think deeply on a topic. So it could be another unit of study where you use the Wolves of Yellowstone as the and the readings around that as a non-fiction text around which you use reading critically standards and writing standards. But it definitely doesn't fit into this unit of study. And then when we get down to the rubric is fine with the standards that you have added there. Oh, here's the poetry one with song. Again, none of this fits in with your unit of study that you've designed in your UBD. There is totally something different. Now it could connect if you somehow with the poetry issue, but the way it sits now, it doesn't connect at all. And when we get down to the rubric, sorry, I know I'm giving you a headache here. All right, so the standard you chose is not among these standards, okay? Again, when I looked at this rubric, I thought, well, she's going to add these 2 speaking and listening standards. That makes perfect sense to me because they fit. So she's going to add those to your UBD and redesign that a little bit, but you didn't. And again, shame on me for assuming I shouldn't have done that. So it is you're not assessing the standard that you set out. So you need to add that standard. You need to have that standard for your poem, or you need to add these 2 standards to your UBD and do some fiddling around with the SLOs to reflect that you've added those two standards, and you add those standards to your lesson plan as well, because if those are the things you're going to assess, students need to know that right up front. This writing standard doesn't fit because you didn't put that in the UBD. This writing standard doesn't fit because you didn't put that into the UBD, and neither does this one. And I have no idea why you put the professional development plan in here. I think it was just a mistake on your part. It just got tacked onto here. All right, so I've gone through this really quickly, but these are the serious issues here. I don't see how they connect, and I was willing to listen to what you had to say, and I listened to it, but the lessons aren't sequential. There's no scope and sequence to these 4 lessons. What is sequential from your UBD is that first lesson. I'll go back up to it, is this one. This is the only piece that is sequential and that connects to your UBD. So if you want to rewrite this as 3 separate lessons for 3 separate classes, where they are working on these skills, and you want to redo your rubric to reflect the standard that you have here, this one, participate and prepare for, or if you want to add those two SNL standards to your UBD up here, you could certainly do that, okay? But you would have to look carefully at your other pieces here to make sure they fit those standards, okay? So that's, I don't know why this is here. It's some sort of an editing thing, and I don't want to mess with it, so I'm leaving it alone. I have no idea what's going on with that. So, so that's that. I would still like to meet with you. I hope that you still want to meet with me. Please let me know. If this is useful and you want to take this from here and do some work, that's fine. We still have 3 weeks left in the semester. I mean, it's not though, it's over on the last day. So frankly, I mean, if you just cut out everything beyond that lesson 1 and redid that as 3 separate lessons, you've got a decent small unit of study. That may be the best thing for you to do at this point. So with that, I will look forward to hearing to what you have to say about my comments, and I hope that this has been more useful than this typing back and forth business. And again, I want to stress that I know you are a passionate and dedicated person, and I know that fitting your ideas into a lineal scope and sequence has been difficult for you, but it is something that we have to do as teachers. We do have to have, a very structured way of helping students get to standards, particularly in our proficiency-based world. And I know not all schools are there yet, but they will be. It's law. It has to happen. So that's what we're preparing you for when you hit when you get to be a teacher in your own classroom. With that, I'll be talking to you soon, Ida.